Hey everyone, happy Friday. It's that time of day where we take a moment and pause and say thanks to everyone who's making the world run. Let's start with the men and women in the military, police officers, firefighters, doctors, nurses, lab technicians, hospital orderlies, small business owners, restaurateurs, truck drivers, everyone working at the grocery stores and fast food joints. Wait, did I just repeat that again?
I don't think you did. I think you keep thinking that you're repeating it. I think you're okay.
Here's the national anthem.
Giving you the day's headlines with the right context. It's the John Phillips Show.
And a very happy Friday to you at 12:07 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's across the glass.
Johnny, we're broadcasting live on 790 KABC in Southern California, 810 KSFO in the Bay Area, and we're also broadcasting live on video every single day at johnnydon'tlike.com. That's the website that takes you to the YouTube channel, johnnydon'tlike.com. You can subscribe, hit the like button, play around in the chat room. It's already lively this early on a Friday, and we got tons of on-demand content on there as well, including the Accountability Podcast. It's all right there, so check us out, watch us live. It's a Friday. You don't need to get any work done. johnnydon'tlike.com.
And come the 2 o'clock hour, we're going to have a treat for the audience.
We have been getting a lot of requests for we've had some great interviews this last few weeks, and a lot of people really enjoyed our interviews with Julie Watts and Susan Crabtree, talking about all different issues up and down the state of California affecting Gavin Newsom. So at 2 o'clock, we're going to replay those interviews. Julie Watts from CBS News and Susan Crabtree from Real Clear Politics. So it'll be a treat, and we'll be all hanging out, rewatching it together.
All right, Randy, we have a new installment for You Can Smell It Right Here.
Katie, we're going to need you.
You can smell it right here.
It's back to school season, and that means the kids are going to be going back to school while the town they're in smells like rotting meat. Karen Bass held a press conference this morning with Hilda Solis and Isabel Gerardo, trying to explain how none of this is her fault. It's all Lineage's fault.
Okay, for the record, Lineage had nothing to do with the fire. It was the idiots that put the solar panels on the roof and then turned them on when they weren't safe to be turned on. Lineage just operated a cold storage facility that happened to be underneath the solar panels that they had nothing to do with.
It is the weirdest part of this story that the solar panel company gets no mention whatsoever. All the talk is about Lineage, even though the initial fears when Karen Bass said the air was safe to breathe was all the toxic fumes that came out from the massive solar panel farm. And it seems like while they want to make all these grand proclamations about how we don't want any more cold storage facilities near neighborhoods, they're not going to dare say we don't want any more solar panel farms near neighborhoods, because that's how the fire started. And that is also, even though this was a massive warehouse, part of the reason that the fire took a week to put out is the elements that are in solar panels, just like the elements that are in EV batteries, are incredibly difficult to put out. So they don't want to say anything about that. They want to blame the cold storage facility for having a building that burned down and it being very difficult to get rid of all the rotting meat. I will point out right here, because I don't think we'll have time to get to it, because we got to hear straight from the Bass's mouth first. But when she hands the mic over to Hilda Solis starts echoing how, yes, this is all their fault, but we need to assist them because they don't have enough dumps to take all this stuff to.
Well, just take it to Oakland and drop it off on the street like everyone else.
Well, don't give them any ideas. But yes, the city and the county have not really been helping out with, hey, here's the landfills you can take all of this garbage to. Except, of course, for El Sobrante and Corona. Bet Riverside County loves that. All right, for more on this, NBCLA was there to capture the press conference, but NBCLA was not allowed to ask a question because Karen Bass is pissed at them for dropping the report on the flies that can give you diseases. Here's Bass.
Continue to be plagued.
Okay, I'm just going to warn you right now. This was a press conference. This is the only video that we have of this right now, and I did not notice this when I was listening in the car. But it looks like they recorded this only in the left headphone. So if you only hear this in your left speaker, we know that's just how it's going to be. We'll all get through this together.
By horrific smells, a growing fly infestation, and constant uncertainty about when this hell will end. The violation, the fines, formal complaints continue to pile up against Lineage from all sides.
One of the things that Karen Bass, Hilda Solis, and Isabel Gerardo want you to know is don't you worry, even though we told you it was safe, even though we provided you with substandard air purifiers that don't do anything, even though when you came to our health clinics lungs filled with fluid, we offered you Tylenol, we're giving Lineage fines. That'll do it. Fines of $500 a day. Oh, don't you worry. We upped it to $2,000 a day. That'll do it.
I just don't understand why Lineage is the boogeyman here. You can blame the city. You could blame the people that put the solar panels on the roof and turned them on when it was not safe to do so. But Lineage was just at the wrong place at the wrong time.
I mean, they said this in the town hall. They got booed for it, but they are a victim in this too. And let's not forget, the food started rotting because it took the LAFD a week to put out that fire. We were so ill-equipped to deal with that fire that we'd have special cannons shipped from Texas and then put together, and that delayed it as well.
Well, it was essentially a chemical fire with those solar panels. You're supposed to bend over backwards to make sure that those things never get lit on fire. It's like why Michael Jackson can't be cremated. If it's just dangerous chemicals, you can't light that on fire. It's going to burn forever.
Well, that again is the weird thing here. They don't want to say a damn thing about the solar panels. They want to talk about environmental racism and how unjust it is that these kinds of facilities are near neighborhoods and schools. But what they're not going to tell you is that the solar panels were the cause of this, because they can't tell you, well, we shouldn't have solar panels near schools. Because, John, you know what a lot of LAUSD schools have in their parking lots?
Solar panels.
Solar panel farms.
The commitments they've made, or commitments they've failed to meet, I should say, are too many to count. But let me just list a few. Lineage has failed to provide sufficient relocation support for residents.
You could have called for the evacuation, and you did not. And even though residents are still asking for an evacuation, the county says, oh, that's the city's problem. And the city says, no, that's the county's problem.
Okay, but again, how can you blame Lineage for this? Because the city and the county both came out and said it was perfectly safe to be there and to breathe the smoke.
Yep.
They failed to adequately address the...
Karen Bass for re-election. Her campaign slogan is, everything is everybody else's fault.
horrific odors. They failed to prevent flies and rats from migrating to the neighborhoods.
Wait, aren't you the people that hid the fact that they were toxic flies from the public until NBC4 came out with that investigation?
Yeah, we learned about that from the news.
Around the warehouse, they failed to address related health concerns of residents.
Aren't you the ones that set up health clinics that didn't do anything?
They gave people Tylenol when they showed up with fluid in their lungs.
They failed to notify the community of any changes.
Isn't that your job? What do we have a Department of Public Health for?
Well, these politicians and these government agencies have communications departments, but these communications departments do nothing but troll people on Twitter. So the job that they all used to do 10, 15, 20 years ago just doesn't get done anymore because they don't see that as part of their job description.
Notice who's absent from this press conference, by the way.
Wash your hands often and always before eating and after toileting.
Where's Babs?
You know what else is interesting? If you're watching us on YouTube, maybe you've noticed the same thing as me. There's not a man up there. It's all women. Do you notice that?
I do notice that. You have Karen Bass, you have Hilda Solis, you have the nonprofit that's tasked with relocation 211 LA, the nonprofit that's tasked with feeding people, everyone. And by the way, there was so much of what always happens in these press conferences where everyone thanks each other for their leadership and talks about what a great job they're doing in the middle of an environmental disaster that they say is nothing. None of this is their fault.
All they did was congratulate each other and place the blame on everyone else.
Yep.
And more than that, you can certainly look, because of their failures, of the actions that we've had to take. But despite all of this, Lineage had the audacity to submit plans to rebuild their warehouse.
By the way, let's not forget, Lineage currently is employing one of Karen Bass's aides for PR. So she can trash them all she wants. She has a vested interest in protecting that company.
This is a slap in the face of the families that are forced to suffer with the consequences of this corporate actions, or I should say...
You notice, by the way, that this press conference is at City Hall indoors and not at the actual site of the fire because they don't want to have to smell the smells.
Well, they also want to have it in a controlled environment because there's a protest going on right now in Boyle Heights against Karen Bass and Hilda Solis and Isabel Jurado, and they don't want to actually talk to the public about this.
Actions.
They tried that. It didn't work out well. If you want to see it, check out our accountability podcast, episode 3 at johnnydon'tlike.com. Is a good one.
Every single day. In my opinion, they shouldn't even think about rebuilding until they've cleaned up the mess they've created. This is what
they've created. And again, no mention of the solar panels because the city, the county, and the state is in a whole lot of problem if all of a sudden the public says we should not have these massive concentrations of solar panels in the city.
It's like we're living in an alternate universe where you had a failure on the part of the city, a failure on the part of the county, a failure on the part of the solar, and they just pick some random entity to blame and they all pile on.
I am directing city departments to put their plans up on a shelf while a thorough investigation of the property and any future use is conducted. And that's why
getting city employees to not do their job is not a hard ask.
Today, I'm issuing emergency executive order number 3, directing city departments not to process Lineage rebuilding plans until the city and the public have had an opportunity to review the investigation.
You mean like the after-action report with the Palisades fire where you doctored it to shift any blame away from your incompetence?
You know, as much as I dislike the DSA, as much as I dislike Nithya Raman, this woman cannot be reelected. She is so awful at her job. She is so bad. And she blames everyone but herself for all of her failures. She learns nothing from any of these failures, and she just continues to lead us down the wrong road. You cannot reward this.
Say this is executive order number 3, but this is probably not the last executive order that will be issued. I'm also requesting the City Council, under the leadership of my colleague, Councilmember Jurado, to push an ordinance that puts in place.
I wonder if we can get Kevin De Leon to come on the show. I wonder what he has to say about all this, because this was his district, and these are the idiots that he lost to. He lost to Mayor to Karen Bass, and he lost the city council seat to Isabel.
Do you think he'd be any better?
No, but he might call them out, and that would be fun. We saw him when we were at the Pomona College debate for the governors that we were invited to by Julie Watts. He has a real big FU beard going on.
A moratorium on the building of future large cold storage facilities near residents or sensitive areas like parks and schools.
And again, the thing you need to realize here is that they need to have all of these investigations and all these ordinances to ban freezers. But the start of this fire and why it was so toxic was the solar panels. And they don't want to say anything about that because that would be a huge shift in policy in clean, green California to admit that all of these concentrations of solar panels are incredibly dangerous.
Well, and here's the thing. If you want refrigerated food, you have to have cold storage facilities. That's just how it works. You have to have a place to keep them cold. So if you're going to act as if they're the problem and you're going to want to chase them out of town, then I guess no ice cream for us.
This pause will give the city an opportunity to study the issues and enact new legislation that governs where and how these facilities can be built. Lineage doesn't seem to know how to...
Maybe they're downwind from the smell. She seems to be unwell right now.
Well, she's not like Ferrer with the sniffles.
No, nobody is as sickly as her. Picture of health.
Get their priorities right. Their priority must remain on protecting the health and safety of the residents. Their priority must remain on finishing this cleanup. Now, they have 14 days left to remove all of the rotting waste and the cloth.
You mean the 45-day timeline that Karen Bass put on them that they said in that town hall, yeah, usually a cleanup like this will take 6 months.
You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of when we had all the catalytic converters being stolen. And they came out and they blamed the car companies for making it too easy to steal the catalytic converters. Not the criminals, not the ones who are stealing them. God forbid we blame them. No, it's the car companies that are at fault.
You know who that was? That was Nithya. This is the choice we have.
Ticking. This is the third executive order I've issued to mobilize resources, accelerate the cleanup, and fight for transparency and accountability for Boyle.
Hey, that's the most meaningless word in the English language and the name of our podcast.
A new episode dropped on Wednesday.
Heights. When Lineage failed to act with the urgency this community deserves, the city and their partners.
At what point, if there's so much urgency, if this is a true environmental disaster that it is, where's the state? Where's the state calling in the feds? Where's FEMA? Why isn't the Army Corps of Engineers here cleaning up the debris here the way they did in the Palisades? Why, oh, why is all of this on the company?
Why hasn't Gavin visited Ground Zero?
Have stepped up. We brought mobile health clinics directly to the community.
The mobile health clinics were a joke.
They were the ones giving people Tylenol when they showed up with their lungs filled with fluids.
Delivered thousands of air purifiers.
Those didn't do anything, and air purifiers maybe can purify the air from one room, but they don't do anything when it comes to stenches of this level, and they don't do anything about rats and flies and disease-carrying flies.
Provided emergency housing placements,
Not to most people, and most of those housing vouchers were for 14 days from Airbnb, who are beholden to Karen Bass because she changed the rules so they can rent out during the Olympics.
We've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. We didn't think it was possible to have a mayor that was worse than Eric Garcetti. And surprise, it's a girl.
I've received things on both ends.
So there's a lot more at this press conference. You can check out the entire thing on my Substack at randywangradio.substack.com. But it is an embarrassment from Bass, from Solis, and from Gerardo and the rest of them.
It's the John Phillips Show.
For over 8 years, I have been talking about Clark Fielding and the jaws of justice at Fielding Law. This is the guy that I have been recommending for over 8 years if you get hurt in any kind of an accident. His phone number is 833-88-SHARK, 833-887-4275, 833-88-SHARK. And his website is clarkthesharklaw.com. Lots of great information on there, an easy way to contact them if you're not a phone person. But they also have something that you can print out for free at clarkthesharklaw.com. There is the Accident Preparation Guide, a handy little thing that you print out. I have it in my glove box, and it's a little checklist, and it tells you things that you might not be thinking about because you're a little dazed and confused from being in an accident, including witness contact information, their statements, getting photos of every angle of every vehicle, and getting a lawyer to protect you immediately. 833-88-SHARK.
Hurt in an accident? Bite back. Call Clark. 833-88-SHARK. ClarkTheSharkLaw.com.
It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Coming up next, Jennifer Van Laar joins us to go over Gavin Newsom's taxes. Don't you go anywhere.
No purchase necessary to enter or win. Sweepstakes open to U.S. residents only, except New York and Florida. 18 and older. Rent 11-126. Void where prohibited. For official rules, visit CarProSweeps.com. Sponsor Acuity Marketing, Inc. DBA CarPro.
Now is one of the best times to enter to win a 26 Corvette Stingray at CarPro.com. For a limited time, qualifying entry packages receive up to 30 times the entries. Win a brand new 2026 Corvette Stingray or $40,000 cash. This special launch promotion won't last long, so don't wait. Go to CarPro.com today and get entered. Now, let's talk more about CarPro.com. Listen to this 5-star review from listener Doree from Carson about her experience with CarPro.com and Kia of Carson. Quote, this dealership should hold a master class on how to lease and sell vehicles. Everything went so smoothly. I was blown away. No haggling, no BSing. Everything was straightforward, honest, and easy. I'd been to at least 6 dealerships prior that were all awful. I was so happy with Kia of Carson, I cannot recommend them enough, end quote. For that same kind of VIP treatment and rockstar pricing, go to CarPro.com, put in your zip code and what you're looking for. Or you can call or text message Tom Haynes directly on his cell phone at 818-435-6797. Stop doing it the hard way. Go to CarPro.com. It's the John Phillips Show. 1-800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, not only can you listen to the show on the radio, you can watch us perform it live on YouTube.
We're broadcasting every single day, not just on the radio anymore, but on video. So go to johnnydon'tlike.com. That's johnnydon'tlike.com. We made it real simple. I paid for a domain name with my own money just so we could make it easy for you to find this thing. So you know what you can do for us? Check it out. If you're working, watch it later. All this stuff is on demand. Hold on. There we go. And you can watch us do the show, react to all the videos along with us, see our special guests, and of course, play around in the chat room. Hit that subscribe button, and that way you'll see all of our content show up on your feed constantly. Hit those like buttons, comment on what we're doing here, and comment on all of our on-demand material, including, Johnny, the Accountability Podcast. We've got 5 episodes. If you missed any of them, they're all up at johnnydon'tlike.com, and make great weekend watching.
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes Steel Pulse with special guest Long Beach Dub All-Stars Eli Mack and Common Sense at the Pacific Amphitheater at the OC Fair on August 16th. Tickets are on sale now at packamp.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. All concert tickets include admission to the OC Fair. Tickets furnished by the Pacific Amphitheater. Good luck dialing.
It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is the managing editor at Red State, who you can read online at redstate.com. You can follow her on X at Jen Van Laar. Jennifer Van Laar, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, today is the day that we got to take a look at Gavin Newsom's tax returns. I have not had an opportunity to pour through it as it broke right before we went to air, but you have. What did you learn from Gavin Newsom's taxes?
Well, I don't know that release and pouring through has really much to do with it, because he, again, only allowed a certain number of handpicked journalists to go to his office. It was yesterday for 5 hours. They could not bring cameras, phones, or any smart glasses. They could only bring pen and paper and blank tax returns if they so desired. So they could just, take the numbers down. So it was 4 years of tax returns, and they were about 800 pages total. So what we have are numbers from some various outlets that were allowed in there, but it pretty much goes with what I said all along it was going to show, and it doesn't support their lifestyle.
You've said that for quite some time, that they send their kids to private schools, that they wear fine clothes, that they go on fancy vacations, that they have expenses that really don't match the income of a public servant. And as you look at these details, that has been confirmed?
That has. The other thing that was extremely surprising, we've heard that this alleged federal investigation involves Jennifer Siebel Newsom and her tax returns and her corporations and nonprofits, while the Girls Club Entertainment Group paid her $100,000 in salary in 2021, which was the first tax year that we have in this latest tranche, which is 2021 to 2024. Then they only paid her something like $10,000 the next year, and they didn't pay her anything at all in 2023 or 2024, and it lost money each of those years.
Okay, that seems odd, because if you're working for one of these non-for-profits, I would imagine that you're a salaried employee and your income would remain pretty consistent over time. Why is it that she had one income one year that would, I guess, equate to a full-time salary, and then have it dramatically reduced the next year, and then, I guess, transition it to a volunteer position the year after that?
Well, it's actually the opposite with that. So the Representation Project is her nonprofit, and she still gets about 150 grand a year from that. She was getting 150 grand a year from that and 150 grand from Girls Club Entertainment, which is her for-profit entity, in the years leading up to 2020. After that, the Representation Club has basically remained the same. And the Girls Club Entertainment, her for-profit entity that was supposedly getting the licensing fees from California schools, was losing money.
As someone who is certainly under the microscope of the federal government right now, as Jennifer Siebel Newsom is, do you think there's anything in these numbers that the feds might find interesting?
Yeah, because it's just that it doesn't support their lifestyle. So in 2021, they did report over $4 million in income, but that there's over $2 million of that was from the sale of their house in Marin County. So it wasn't really an increase. They're basically the same with a $1.4 million a year average income. So how are they paying now? $500,000 a year plus in mortgage fees. They're still paying almost $200,000 a year to household employees out of that income. And then all of the taxes, around $700,000 a year is the average tax bill that they had. And that's not including property taxes. So it's mind blowing. How did they qualify for this mortgage? Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words because it's just, I don't know anyone else who could get a $6.5 million mortgage on that income.
Walk us through the house. You've done reporting on the house that they live in because at one point in time they lived in, I believe it was Fair Oaks, which is an affluent suburb of Sacramento. I think at one point they had the most valuable house in that particular county, if I'm not mistaken. They have since sold that house and they moved to Marin County, but the details regarding the purchase of that house also raised eyebrows.
No, they still have the Fair Oaks home. They still have that one, and they still have a $13,000 a month mortgage on it. They sold another house in Marin County that they had. So the purchase of this, what people think is happening is that Jennifer Newsom is most likely staying at the Marin County home most of the time, and Gavin is staying at the Fair Oaks home. But we need to send some private eyes out there to trail them and see if indeed that's what's happening.
But both of those homes are relatively large. They're relatively expensive. They're certainly expensive to operate. I mean, go back to
Yes.
when Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor. He stayed, I think, at a hotel. I think he stayed at that Hyatt right across the street from the Capitol. Jerry Brown famously had, I think, a one-bedroom apartment when he was governor. He certainly didn't live lavishly. Having two massive homes that cost a fortune to operate seems like something that's not fiscally responsible if you're living on a public servant salary.
Right. And he does get the dividends from Plump Jack, which is probably about, give or take a little around $1 million a year. But when you're paying that much in property taxes and income taxes, and you're spending $200,000 a year on domestic employees, it just doesn't add up. I mean, I don't know what these power bills have to be. It has to be $4 or $5 grand a month total for these two places just for the power to be on.
Has he made any comments about his taxes, about any questions that anyone has been asking about what they found in there? Or is he just showing them to select reporters and that's that, and I'm not talking about it?
He's on vacation this week. And so the reporters just went yesterday. And of course, Izzy Garden just said, hey, he's the opposite of Donald Trump. He's not making a bunch of money while he's in office. And this just shows that there's a big contrast between him and Donald Trump. I mean, if anything, I'd say the contrast is that Donald Trump actually knows how to make money. And Gavin Newsom is not a very good businessman.
Well, he's also a millionaire. I mean, he's not one of these middle-class guys. He's certainly not someone who is, I guess, can relate to the little guy if you're trying to, sell that as your appeal as a candidate for the presidency. He lives like a gentry class winemaker who has access to the Gettys and all of their money.
Yeah, he's a millionaire trying to live a billionaire life is the problem. So you can be at whatever income level and still outlive your means.
What about that governor's fund that he has that he can raise money for? And I don't believe he has to abide by campaign limits on contributions to that fund, where he essentially has access to that money as a slush fund that he can use for any number of things like travel.
Yeah, so that's how he gets a lot of his travel is through that. But that's not going to do anything to pay their bills every month. And what these tax returns show is that there's not nearly enough money to pay for all of the obligations that they have, let alone to feed and clothe 4 children.
If you had an opportunity to ask Gavin Newsom one question after looking over what you've read regarding the taxes, what would you ask him?
How do you pay for everything else? Just simply that.
I wonder if her family helps them out more than we know.
They might, but that still doesn't take away. I mean, unless they're paying their power bills for them and all kinds of other things, then it still doesn't add up. And it also then calls into question what other dude that's pushing 60 has to have his wife's parents pay for crap.
Yeah, that is a bad look for him if that's in
Yeah.
fact what they're doing.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on this one. And certainly, if you want to read Jennifer's reporting on the Newsom's taxes, you can do so at redstate.com. And you can follow Jennifer on X at Jen Van Laar. Jennifer Van Laar, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you.
It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you want to watch us perform the show live, you can do so at johnnydon'tlike.com. All right, here with an update on a story we brought you yesterday out of the California crime blotter, Mr. Randy Wang.
Mia Ventura, also known as Adva Lavi, also known as Stephen Klubeck's ex-fiancée, well, she is back in jail after she was arrested because of an incident that happened at Coachella last spring. By the way, when she was arrested by police, she was out to dinner with Klubeck, and they were like, hey, your ankle monitor's not on, which is a reminder that LA County Probation Department staff is so low because everyone has to go work in juvie because none of the employees in juvie want to work there because they get beat up by the gang members that George Gascon put in there, that there's actually nobody checking on the ankle monitors for anyone on probation.
Great.
Anyway, for more on Mia Ventura and her Coachella heist, here is a report from NBC LA.
And we begin at 6 with an NBC4 exclusive. Influencer and model Adva Lavi is back in jail tonight. Good evening once again, everyone.
Okay, whatever surgeon she paid wasn't a good one, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of an old Roseanne Barr joke that she told on The Tonight Show. She said that her daughter walked in on her when she was coming out of the shower and she was naked. And her daughter, who I think was 3 years old at the time or 4 years old at the time, turns to Roseanne and goes, Mommy, when I grow up and get to be your age, will my breasts hang down long like yours?
I'm Colleen Williams.
And I'm Carolyn Johnson. Michael Brownlee is off. The LA County Sheriff's Department previously accused the woman of using dating apps to build relationships and then steal from wealthy older men.
And Stephen Klubeck was just a willing participant in all this? No. She really loves me.
Now she's been arrested again, accused of stealing from another man.
NBC4's Alex Rozier spoke exclusively with the alleged victim. He joins us live with the interview you will see for the first time and only on 4. Alex.
Colleen and Carolyn, this time Adva Lavi was wanted by the Indio Police Department out of Riverside County, but it was actually the Beverly Hills Police Department that found her and arrested her. And that's when they noticed that she was not wearing her ankle monitor.
So what's the point of an ankle monitor if nobody is monitoring it? Because it seems like she didn't have that thing on for quite some time.
Yeah, probably doesn't look good with the high heels.
Think she kept the ankle monitor on when Klubeck was pouncing on her?
But tonight, she is in jail for a few reasons, as we are hearing exclusively from her latest alleged victim. Today, Adva Lavi appeared in an LA County courtroom after the model
Kind of looks like Michael Jackson.
She really does.
Maybe same surgeon?
An influencer was arrested again. Last year, the LA County Sheriff's Office said Lavi stole from at least 10 wealthy older men. Her latest alleged victim.
By the way, she is one of the most fake-looking people I have ever seen. Klubeck, you have no class whatsoever.
She looks like an AI image. She doesn't look like an actual human being.
Yeah, she looks like a love doll.
Much younger.
How did that make you feel?
Well, I mean, it's not a good experience, obviously. You feel violated.
I spoke with Oscar. He said Adva Lavi, who he knows as Mia Ventura, stayed at his Airbnb last year in Indio, California, near the 2025 Coachella Music Festival.
She was invited because she was met through mutual friends.
But Oscar...
I wonder if you're still friends with that mutual friend.
Mutual friends? Yeah. Next time you order in, pick a different girl out of the catalog.
What do you think the relationship's like when you're throwing a party, your friend invites somebody that you don't know, and they rob you?
said at one point she got upset because he didn't give her a free wristband to the festival.
Really? With all the money you stole from Stephen Klubeck and all these other men, you can't afford a $500 wristband to Coachella?
Well, she didn't have a wristband or an ankle monitor.
Actually, later on we found out what she did.
Oscar sent us this video he shared with investigators that appears to show Levy going through his
Just so you know that everybody in this story is crass, this guy has a Cybertruck.
Tesla truck. He told police she stole his Rolex, designer sunglasses, and a designer wallet.
Why is all of that in the Tesla Cybertruck?
Doesn't seem like a good idea.
Seems like everybody involved in this story is desperate for attention.
What do you think the value on all that is?
Well, only on my stuff, I think you're probably talking about over $10,000.
Oscar originally reported the theft to the Indio Police Department after the...
Also, once again, much like the Tesla tagger we talked about in Irvine, shouldn't Mia or Adva know that the Tesla has security cameras on it? She don't seem to care.
Well, I don't think she got a master's degree from Harvard.
music festival, but he called them again after Levy made news later last year for suspected thefts in LA County, too.
Were you surprised to see her in the headlines a few months ago?
I was shocked, yeah.
All right, when he saw the local news report and he recognized that face, how many curse words were out of his mouth?
Oh. I'm sure he let those expletives fly.
And not just the B.
I never thought that she was going to get caught at him because she's kind of hard to get a hold of.
In March.
Well, you just need to be older and creepier, and then she'll message you on Tinder.
Levy pleaded not guilty after she was charged with 6 felonies, including charges for grand theft and burglary. But now she's facing another potential felony, arrested Tuesday for another grand theft for stealing from Oscar.
How do you feel about her arrest?
Well, it's some sort of relief. We don't exactly know how this is going to go, but at least, it's a step forward, that we've been waiting for. Hopefully she can be brought into justice.
Well, you know why she's stealing from people right and left.
Why is that?
Because she didn't have Joe Jackson around to smack her around to keep her in line.
And again, she was arrested this week in Beverly Hills. That's when officers there realized that she was not wearing her ankle monitor. So she has more legal problems and cases in LA County and now case in Riverside County too. The model and influencer is expected back in court tomorrow.
And let's not forget Stephen Klubeck, who ran for governor and then endorsed Eric Swalwell and then housed Swalwell when the scandal broke. He is also facing charges because he allegedly was intimidating witnesses and trying to get them to not testify against his now ex-fiancée, Mia.
Don't bust the trust.
Carolyn.
Alex, were you able to connect with Levy's defense attorney?
We were able to reach out to Levy's defense attorney, Lou Shapiro, today, and we did just hear back from his office. A representative there said that at this point, they are not going to be making any comment.
They got a tough road ahead of them.
No question. Well, keep her away from Macaulay Culkin, too. We've got 2 more hours coming up on the John Phillips Show. Don't you go anywhere.
Something's not right here.
Crime is up all over the state.
The homelessness in the city is out of control.
The economy is sick. Taxes are high.
Housing is expensive and businesses are leaving.
California needs fixing. And John Phillips is just the man to lead the charge. It's the Fix California Hour with John Phillips and Randy Wang.
And we continue at 1:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's across the glass.
Johnny, we're broadcasting live on the radio, 790 KABC in Southern California, 810 KSFO in the Bay Area, and we're also broadcasting on video every single day from noon to 3 at johnnydon'tlike.com. Takes you right to the YouTube channel. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on the browser, johnnydon'tlike.com. Subscribe to our channel, like the video from today. Check out all of our on-demand content, including all 5 episodes of the Accountability Podcast, which if you haven't watched them yet, they're all right there at johnnydon'tlike.com, and they make great viewing for the weekend.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a candidate for Attorney General here in the state of California. You can get him online at gates4ag.com. Michael Gates, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right. I want to start out by talking about a subject that, for the life of me, I cannot figure out why it's not on the front page of the newspaper. So we've been covering the saga that's going on right now in Oakland, where former Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao had her home raided, along with the owners of California Waste Solutions and others. And they're now being charged with crimes. Some of them involved in this are already cutting deals right now with the feds, including a councilman in San Leandro. And all of this was sparked after a whistleblower came forward and said that Andy Dong had images and videos of politicians in compromising situations that he was using to blackmail to get what he wanted. That was in the initial letter. This has been reported. Mario Juarez is the name of the guy who wrote the letter. We recently, this week, had a bombshell report in the San Jose Mercury News that authenticated the fact that there were images and videos of politicians in compromising situations found on his telephone when the FBI raided his house and took his computers and took his phones. They said that that was, in fact, proven to be true, although they did not name which politicians were found on his phone in those compromising positions. We know that the Attorney General of California, Rob Bonta, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a white-collar criminal defense law firm when he was asked to go in front of the feds and tell them what he knows about what's going on in that investigation. All of this leads to the obvious question: are there compromising photos and videos that exist regarding Rob Bonta, the Attorney General of California, that have been used to blackmail him into doing something that he otherwise would not do? It seems like an obvious question to me at this point, given the fact that everything that I just said has been in various newspapers on any number of occasions. It's not like we're guessing. It's not like we're speculating. These are proven facts. Why has that question not been asked? Because it seems like that is the $64,000 question in this race.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I'm glad you know the history. A lot of voters don't know the history of Oakland and the crooked politics there and the players involved. Rob Bonta absolutely is involved. He has connections. Not only are they just loose connections and political connections, but these are longtime friends of his. So Rob Bonta has been seen partying. If you look at the photos and the videos in the past, he has been seen partying with Andy Duong and members of the Duong family, along with his wife, Mia, for years. They were friends and political allies. Andy Duong made or funneled approximately $160,000 of campaign contributions to Rob Bonta's campaigns. And then Sheng Tao, who's been federally indicted, as you mentioned. Andy Duong was federally indicted too, and former Mayor Sheng Tao was federally indicted. Rob Bonta has known her for years. In fact, he was at her swearing-in ceremony. He was the one that swore her in when she was elected to office. So these are really, really bad connections. These are bad actors. And I actually put a post on my social media. It was generated by AI, but it's basically Rob Bonta depicted with former Mayor Sheng Tao, Andy Duong, and then former Mayor Eileen Wang. And the caption above his head is, "I have more friends who have been federally indicted than you." And so, not to make too light of it, it's a serious situation, but he has a number of friends who have been federally indicted. I don't know anybody personally, any of my friends or associates who have ever been federally indicted, yet Rob Bonta has a long list of people who have been federally indicted. And as you said, he spent over $500,000 or nearly $500,000 on white-collar, very high-profile criminal defense attorneys, not simply just to answer a few questions, but to literally sit down and be scrutinized and interrogated by the FBI. This is Rob Bonta, our top law enforcement officer in the state of California, who was interrogated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So this guy has got a lot of problems, a lot of baggage, and I know it's going to catch up with him in this election. I do believe that there's going to be a lot of compromising evidence that comes to light. It could be the videos, it could be other things. I have heard a lot of information about these things from reliable sources myself, but because I can't verify it myself, I won't divulge it. But I will say that there's going to be a lot that comes to light when these cases go to trial. So former Mayor Sheng Tao and Andy Duong, these trials are going to occur in early October. And so it remains to be seen what comes to light from the trials. They're going to be public trials. All of the evidence there is going to be made public. And if it implicates Rob Bonta, he's going to have to answer for that. I also have faith in our system that the federal investigation and the federal questioning, that too alone independently may reveal some of the contents of the videos and some of the images that you're talking about. But this is all very, very concerning. And I think as long as voters in California learn about this, and thank you for bringing it up, they're going to have a pretty important choice to make here in November. Are they going to continue with somebody who's mired in corruption and associated with federal crime, federal criminal behavior associated, or are they going to elect somebody like myself who has a clean record and is actually the law and order candidate who literally just wants to become Attorney General to fight for everyday Californians and return California to law and order in the state of California? We certainly can't depend on our current Attorney General, Rob Bonta, to return California to law and order. He's running from the law in his own right. So California needs to change, but thank you for educating the voters and the public on what's going on here. It's very, very serious.
It's an odd position to be in for you, let alone him, because typically in these races, you're running for attorney general. You'll debate on what you think about Prop 36 or what you think about the death penalty or what you think about, any number of subjects. But if he is being blackmailed by criminals and criminals are getting something in return for it, that's do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go directly to jail. You cannot have an attorney general who is crooked and being manipulated by criminals. And it just seems like we have so many dots that are out there that anyone with two brain cells can connect. And the fact that, at least to my knowledge, he hasn't been called to the carpet on this yet. I mean, why is this not on the front page of the LA Times and the San Francisco Chronicle and the Sacramento Bee? I mean, it seems like there is a massive, massive, massive story out there if someone's willing to tell it.
Well, and frankly, you're really hitting on something very important. First of all, the media is covering for Rob Bonta. We have seen a coordinated effort by the media outlets to cover for him, to provide protection, to not expose a lot of this critical information. But notably, to your point too, remember Rob Bonta was going to run for governor. If you go back to October, November, and December of this last year, he was actually probably the front runner for governor because everybody else, all the other high profile names had decided not to run for governor. So everybody was looking to Rob Bonta to run. It's because of this very story, exactly what you're talking about right now, that Rob Bonta decided not to run for governor. He bowed out and he's sticking with the attorney general's race and he's running for re-election. But this is why this race can be won. I can beat Rob Bonta. All of this baggage is going to come to light. The voters will learn about it. They're hearing about it on shows like yours. But when we start running commercials and we start running ads, we are going to educate the public. All of this is going to be made known. He is going to be, he's going to effectively be exposed to the public. All of this is going to come out. I guarantee it. And so that's why when people say, can we win in California? Can we win a statewide race? Can we really turn the state around? I say, yes, this is the election. We have 65% of respondents to polls say that California is headed in the wrong direction. That means change is coming. People are change oriented when that number is that high at 65%. We have voter ID on the ballot, which is going to drive turnout. We have a candidate like Rob Bonta who's running for re-election, and he's disqualified. And when you say, what is he doing? How is he doing this? He has been not only beholden to people who are blackmailing him, but he's also beholden to Newsom. Newsom appointed him to office in 2021. Rob Bonta did not earn this spot in 2021. Had he been subject to the voters, they would not have elected him because nobody knew about him. And he had a terrible record 10 years prior in the legislature. He was a terrible legislator. So he is beholden to Newsom too, which is why ever since 2021, he's been running cover for corruption and running interference on truth and justice, including criminal justice as well, because he owes his political fortunes to Newsom. And so this is a bad situation. It's a bad dynamic. Not only, like you said, the potential blackmail from people out in the public who can hold something over his head, but also Newsom, who literally put him there in this spot. And so Rob Bonta is compromised in any way you look at it, every direction. And that's why we need to elect a new leader to Sacramento for the Attorney General's position. I need to get elected. I'm the only one who can turn California around and return it to a law and order state. You can't have somebody who's running from the law be responsible for returning California to a law and order state. And so that's why we need to elect me as the Attorney General.
Earlier this week, we had Seneca Scott on the program, who hosts the Gotham Oakland podcast, who's been breaking stories related to the Sheng Tao indictment and other political stories that come out of the city of Oakland. And he has a fear that what is being debated right now on the other side of the aisle is not, will this story become public? I think at this point, the toothpaste is out of the tube. There's enough that's already out there where people are going to be familiar with the details, and it's not going to be a very good look for Rob Bonta, and he might face trouble himself in, any number of theaters. That being said, the worry that Seneca brought up was that this would happen, that this story would break after the election and not before the election. Because if the story breaks after the election, then whoever is elected to be the next governor of California, which right now the polls say it would be Becerra, would be the one who gets to appoint the next attorney general. And instead of allowing someone like you to be in that office so you can look at these nonprofits and you can audit these nonprofits and all of the public money that is being stolen that is going to the benefactors of the one-party rule that rules Sacramento right now, all of that could be at risk of collapsing if someone like you were to be elected to that office. They can't allow that to happen. But if the story breaks after the election, Bonta wins, Becerra appoints, then they can put someone in who will not do those things and will protect the system as it exists now.
Yeah. Well, there is a real sense of urgency, and I'm hoping that with pressure from media like yours, and other sources, that this other media will be forced, frankly, to start reporting on it. We do need to get it out. My campaign will be prepared to get the stories out as we can. But in addition to all of the corruption that you mentioned, that it will continue if Rob Bonta gets reelected. I mean, just look at voter ID. We have a voter ID initiative on the ballot in November. That's Prop 39. It will pass in November because it has over 70% support in California. That's independents, Democrats, and Republicans all supporting it, right? So it will pass and it will become the law of the land. When it passes, it will be challenged. And so it will be in court under challenge. Who's responsible to show up to defend the law of the land or defend voter ID when it gets challenged? It's the Attorney General. Rob Bonta has already expressed that he hates election integrity measures. He sued Huntington Beach, my city, for having its own voter ID law. He shut down the investigation in Riverside by Sheriff Bianco into the special election Prop 50. My point is this. Not only will the corruption continue, but we won't even get what we want, what we voted for, because voter ID will pass in November, and then it'll be challenged. Rob Bonta will not show up to court to defend it, and then it will fail. And how do I know this? Because Kamala Harris did the very same thing with Prop 8 back in 2010. When it passed overwhelmingly at the ballot box, the voters passed the Traditional Marriage Act. Marriage equals a man plus a woman. It was challenged. It went to court. She did not show up to defend it, and then it failed. That was the law of the land that failed because she didn't defend it. Rob Bonta will be guilty of the same thing. He will not show up to court to defend voter ID in November. So there's a whole lot at stake, John. I mean, yes, the corruption, yes, the crimes, potentially that are committed in Sacramento, to the detriment of the taxpayer, but also the laws. Our Prop 36 is not enforced. Our voter ID will be lost even after we pass it. I mean, this is very, very critical. I don't know if people totally realize how important the Attorney General's race is. They're all focused on the governor's race. I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, we need Hilton in as governor, but we really need Bonta out as our Attorney General because there is so much at stake. Even our laws, what we pass at the ballot box, will be at risk. It will be taken from us when if Rob Bonta is our Attorney General again. So this is for all the marbles. If we're going to rescue California, we need a new Attorney General desperately. I can get all of the work that I need to get done to return California to a law and order state, even if Becerra happens to be our governor, because I have independent authority under the California Constitution as the top legal officer in the state of California. I can return California to a law and order state in spite of the governor or the legislature. But if we have Rob Bonta as our Attorney General, there's no hope to return California to a law and order state. The corruption will continue and the lawlessness will continue.
Let's go back to voter ID for a moment, because Rob Bonta is trying to rig that election by purposely giving it a title and summary that is not what it actually is. He's trying to trick people into voting against what they believe in. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so actually Rob Bonta approved a ballot title in September of 2025. And it was pretty vanilla. It was pretty neutral. It wasn't designed to influence the voter one way or another. And that was approved by Rob Bonta already, again, in September 2025. And so it was a done deal. And that's back when he thought maybe there wouldn't be enough signatures or it wouldn't qualify for the ballot. But now that it has qualified, and now that he has seen that there's a lot of support in California to actually support voter ID and to pass voter ID, he rewrote the title at the last minute. And now the first four words say, prevent citizens from voting. So the title has been rewritten for Prop 39, which is the voter ID law, to literally start by saying, prevents citizens from voting. That's entirely misleading, and now it's subject to litigation. But this is exactly how bad this guy is, right? He couldn't let lying dogs lie. He actually had to stir up trouble by rewording the ballot title of Prop 39, or the voter ID proposition, to try to discourage voters, dissuade voters, confuse voters, which is classic Attorney General art, to try to put their thumb on the scale of the outcome of the proposition at the ballot box. That's got to end. When I'm Attorney General, I'm just going to call a spade a spade. The proposition is going to be labeled what it is. I'm not going to deceive the voters. I'm not going to put my thumb on the scale. I'm not going to try to confuse voters. The Attorney General has an awesome responsibility, and that is to be straight with the voters, transparent with the voters, and to enforce the law as it's stated on the books. Rob Bonta does anything but that. We have a lawless Attorney General right now, and Prop 39 and this new ballot title scandal is the latest example of how bad he is for California, and frankly, how much contempt he has for Californians. I see on my social media posts all the time, clearly our state leadership, including Rob Bonta, hates us, everyday Californians, because if he didn't hate us, he wouldn't do half of the stuff that he's doing. So this guy is terrible for California. He's got to go. I am a real lawyer. I've tried many multi-million-dollar cases in trial myself. I've done election integrity litigation myself. I've done First Amendment litigation myself. I have tried many cases. I have argued in various courts, including courts of appeal. California has an opportunity to have a real lawyer as the Attorney General once and for all, and do away with these career politicians that have contempt for us.
Michael Gates, candidate for California Attorney General. You can get him online at gates4ag.com. Michael Gates, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. JohnnyDon'tLike.com. And Randy, you can not only listen to us on the radio, but you can watch us at JohnnyDon'tLike.com.
We do this show live on video now. Every single day from noon to 3, you can watch us. You can react to all the stories as we play them. You can play around in the chat room. We're having a lot of fun here every single day. It adds a whole element to the show. Plus, you can do what I do when I watch podcasts on YouTube. When I want to watch them, I watch them. And when I want to listen to them, I still keep it on the YouTube, but I hit play in the car, and it works out great. So check us out. JohnnyDon'tLike.com takes us right to the YouTube channel, and hit that like button and hit subscribe.
The Fix California Hour continues in moments. Don't you go anywhere.
No purchase necessary to enter or win. Sweepstakes open to U.S. residents only, except New York and Florida. 18 and older, and 11-126. Void where prohibited. For official rules, visit CarProSweeps.com. Sponsor Acuity Marketing, Inc. DBA CarPro.
Now is one of the best times to enter to win a 26 Corvette Stingray at CarPro.com. For a limited time, qualifying entry packages receive up to 30 times the entries. Win a brand new 2026 Corvette Stingray or $40,000 cash. This special launch promotion won't last long, so don't wait. Go to CarPro.com today and get entered. Now, let's talk more about CarPro.com. Listen to this 5-star review from listener Jerry from Westminster about her experience with CarPro.com and Honda of Westminster. Quote, Ray and Sonny were the absolute best, and I can't even describe how much they treated me like I was important to them. Class acts, and I can't thank or appreciate them enough, end quote. For the same VIP treatment and rockstar pricing, go to CarPro.com, put in your zip code and what you're looking for. Or you can call or text message Tom Haynes, the head honcho, directly on a cell phone at 818-435-6797. Stop doing it the hard way. Go to CarPro.com. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is a telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. And Randy, because we hit 2,500 subscribers on the YouTube page, you put our soundboard online.
If you want to play our stupid little drops whenever you want, you can now do that by going to...
If the cashier is dummy.
Cashierisdummy.com. Yes, that domain was available. Go to cashierisdummy.com, and you can play our top 103 drops. We had 100, and then people suggested a few more to add to the list. So play all the drops you want. You can play all the Cecilys you want.
Our babies.
You can play all the Katie Porters you want.
Why do you have to watch porn in the living room?
And, of course, you could play all the Shangys.
That's right. I like that. That was amazing.
So check it out. Cashierisdummy.com. It's completely free. You can download those things as ringtones as you want. It is our gift to you for helping support us through a very successful first month of doing the live video feed of the John Phillips Show.
And coming up at 2 o'clock today, we're going to replay a couple of our interviews that have generated a lot of reaction.
Our Susan Crabtree interview and our Julie Watts interview from last week got a lot of attention on social media, and we've had some people that missed them, that would like to see them, so we'll be replaying those at 2 o'clock. We, of course, have tons of great on-demand content as well right here on the website that you can watch all weekend long at johnnydon'tlike.com, including all 5 episodes of the Accountability Podcast are right there. If you haven't seen any of them, watch them. If you have seen them, watch them again. Hit the like button and comment.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. In Venice, they're trying something new to protect the residents from the bums.
Specifically, former gang members have created a security company that gets the homeless to leave.
Isn't that a protection racket?
Yes. But you know what? At this point, the residents will take whatever works. For more, here is CBS LA.
New at 8, with the latest data showing homeless numbers up in LA, there is an increased perception that programs to get people off the streets are not doing enough. Well, tonight, CBS...
See, look at all that garbage and tell me that LA's better than Oakland.
Lori Perez reports on an unconventional team getting a whole lot of attention right now. Locals either love them or hate them.
We want the best for our community, and we knew that we can step in and help.
For 3 years now, Bobby Luna says he's dedicated his life to making Venice, his hometown, safer and better. It's a story first reported in LA Material. In 2023,
Okay, I got to say it once again, and we got to have some of these reporters on. LA Material is like the hottest new news website in the city of Los Angeles. Some of the reporters used to work at the LA Times, and now the shackles are off, and they're doing real reporting. They did the George Gascon lawsuits from all the people he retaliated against. They also did Katie Porter's Yelp.
Well, someone should tell them about Bob Bonta.
Oh, something tells me that they know.
Bob Bonta co-founded what he describes as kind of a professional neighborhood watch group. 10 guys, Venice natives, on call who will come to your home or business and get encampments or people living on your sidewalk or doorstep.
It's like squatter removers, but for the bums.
Okay, if there was a service, if your neighborhood was taken over by homeless encampments, and there was a service where you could hire gang members to go rough up the homeless to get them out of your neighborhood, would you pay them?
Yes, you would.
Of course. That's the biggest no-brainer on planet Earth.
Hey, do you guys need to do any marketing? We could promote you. Give you a block show right here on KABC.
Yard to leave. He's public about the fact he and others on his team are former gang members and addicts, but says they use that, not in the way you probably think they do.
No, I think they do it in the way we think they do.
Yeah, they have a certain way about being very persuasive when they want something.
Them that there's hope, because they want to talk to someone who's been there.
He gave us one example.
That's not what you're doing, but sure, let's say that.
Well, the truth may not look good on television.
Example of talking to a person living in an RV near a school.
We just say, hey, look, this is the scenario. There's fentanyl and there's needles where these kids are playing. It's not the right thing to do. Can we figure a solution out? And he was like, well, I don't care about anybody in this area. I don't care about the cops and all that, but I would do you guys a favor because I know you guys so long.
That's not what that conversation was.
Who is believing this?
This conversation went a little more like, you can either leave town right now or we're going to a very shallow grave.
Ever been to Lake Mead?
And we've known this guy since we were in elementary.
With more than 350 clients,
Whoa, they've known that guy since they were in elementary school? So they've known him through the crack cocaine epidemic all the way through fentanyl.
You know it's a protection racket when literally people have signs that my home is protected by the protection racket.
And it's called Ghost Town.
Yes.
Consultants is now everywhere, and their customers rave about them, saying alley encampments and sidewalk settlers that once held them.
Doing the job that the city of LA won't do, scaring the homeless into getting the hell out of there.
My only worry would be getting sued if things got, messy.
Well, we know that's what happened to our buddy that was busting up the squatters in the Bay Area. He hired the wrong guy who pulled out a gun, and now there's some issues. But it was just samurai swords. It was fine.
Hostage.
And then when I come out, I sometimes would deal with people who they start accosting me or like trying to get in.
Are gone.
I can call them immediately. They ask you to step away. They don't want you to talk to anybody. And the way they deal with everybody it's really amazing and beautiful and very human to human.
But not everyone sees it.
Yes, because they chased them away with brooms.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. I love the story, and I'm happy we're doing it because it's an interesting tale. They should not be on television. This is something you got to keep under the radar.
That way.
I call it thug security.
Oh, boy. The homeless advocates are here, everybody. It's time to hear both sides for this story.
Maggie Kennedy is a longtime homeless advocate in Venice who says it reflects a movement of vigilantism.
I have experience where they came up to me and harassed me even. Sure, they might be local guys. That might be true. And yeah, they might have some connections with people. But I think the connection is, here's some cash, and if you come back, we'll get you.
That sounds like my kind of service.
I full-throatedly endorse this service.
Sort of thing. So
get the hell out of Venice.
And by the way, I'm glad that this local group is doing this because it seems like they're getting results. But if I could hire El Chapo to do this, I'd do that too.
And people on the street understand that.
Luna vehemently denies that characterization of what they do or how they do it.
I'm sure that's what you're going to say.
Yeah. If it were me, I'd wink right at the camera. Oh, no, we're
Not
doing
even
everything above board. You just trust me.
Not even close. Never has that happened, and we don't operate like that. We do not talk to people disrespectfully. We do not put our hands on anybody. And we always offer help.
Whatever their methods, homeless advocate Mel Tilakaratne says he has concerns. Ghost Town's employees are still in the process of getting state certification and licenses so their workers can legally
Well, that might be a problem.
carry guns and provide security.
Okay, so now Ghost Town, the team of former gang members, they want to be legally packing.
As opposed to what they're probably, well, never mind.
Well, they won't have to put their hands on anybody because all they do is open up the jacket, point to the piece, and say, so you're going to leave now, right?
You think the state's going to allow them to carry guns with them?
One, this is not a state-sanctioned agency. Two, they're operating in public places. Three, where do these people go?
He and other critics see what Ghost Town
Not
does
their
as
problem.
simply and literally moving the problem down the road.
Yeah, moving into Katie Yaroslavsky's district.
care what happens to the people as long as they're not in front of you.
Yep. You got it, lady.
Displacement is not a permanent solution.
The thing is, for some, not in front of them is a solution.
That is the only solution.
It's the only thing you can do.
You make life uncomfortable for these people until they accept the vast amount of services that are out there. Nobody gets to sleep outside.
Necessarily, solving the problem in a big picture, but day to day, I think it's a better way to approach it than any kind of confrontation.
So there you go. The reformed gang members that are shoving the homeless out of Venice.
And they're getting results. It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you're looking for fresh new content to consume over the weekend, Randy, that would be the Accountability Podcast.
The Accountability Podcast with John Phillips and Randy Wang, which if you just want to listen to it, you can search for Accountability Podcast on Apple Podcasts or iHeartRadio. But if you want to watch it, we have all 5 episodes playing now at johnnydon'tlike.com. It's the first thing you see under the live feed that you just watched now. All 5 episodes of the Accountability Podcast. We would really appreciate it if you haven't checked it out yet. We got to get those numbers up because, then we can sell it. And we really, really, really like doing this show. And if we get, this thing going, we'll even do more of them. So check it out, the Accountability Podcast. It's very simple. Watch all 5 episodes this weekend at johnnydon'tlike.com.
All right. I know it's Friday. I know everyone is ready for the weekend to begin. It's going to be a scorcher here in the Southwest. But Randy, we have one more gift. Actually, we have 2 more gifts because the 2 o'clock hour, we're replaying 2 of our most popular interviews over the last month. But now we have an update on one Sheng-Yi Tao.
It's time for another crack at the piñata, everybody. There's not a whole lot of new information here, but we do have legal analysts on their take on the new allegations from the feds about one Sheng-Yi Tao.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So without further ado, here is NBC in the Bay.
And we still got our Oakland A's, baby.
No, you don't.
Bribery, fake jobs, secret records, and
just the combo platter, huh?
interaction with hookers. Those are just some of the new allegations.
This might be your favorite story of all time.
It might be.
By federal prosecutors in the corruption case involving former Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao, her boyfriend, and 2 business owners. The new details
And Bob Bonta.
come months before that trial is set to begin. NBC Barry's Valina Jones dug through the new court documents. This is what she has for you.
Ahead of an October federal corruption trial.
Look at you, Sheng-Yi.
She's sporting new shades. I wonder how she got the money for those.
Prosecutors are revealing new details.
Is she trying to dress older than her age?
I don't know. She kind of looked like Imelda Marcos there.
The alleged play-to-pay scheme involving former Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao, her partner Andre Jones, and California Waste Solutions executives David and Andy Duong.
And right there on the filing, you can read Andy Dong's full name. Just going to leave that there for a second for everyone to see.
This is reading like a true crime novel, not your traditional pay-to-play bribery scheme.
The most shocking details center around a 2023 Vietnam trip. Prosecutors say Tao became angry and worried about her political future after learning a reporter was asking about alleged drug use and activity involving prostitutes.
Brian Acevedo had the best weekend of his life, followed by the worst weekend of his life every weekend after that.
They should do a movie about that trip and just make it The Hangover 4.
Well, you could get Danny Glover to play himself. Why was he there?
I don't know.
By former San Leandro council member Brian Azevedo while on the trip. Court filings claim the Duongs later paid a reporter's associate $10,000 to stop the story from being published.
The jury is going to have a very different picture of the former mayor when they hear about this information. And that
I don't know. The jury's already got quite a picture. Let's not forget, before she was indicted, she was recalled by 66% of them.
Absolutely, absolutely.
she was associated with these individuals and continued to associate with them.
I mean, you're at a point where you cannot separate Sheng and Dong.
No, you can't. They go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Even after some of this evidence came to light.
Acevedo has pleaded guilty to conspiracy in a separate case and is expected to testify at Tao's trial. Prosecutors also allege Tao shared sensitive city council information with Andy Duong and falsified records of a $150,000 job for Jones to secure their home lease.
That's the stuff that the Dongs are trying to say is not relevant to the case, that Sheng has been working on their behalf since at least 2019. 2018. And their original alleged bribe that got them this contract for the Oakland trash services goes all the way back to 2014. And we sure wonder who they did bribe for that.
Additionally, they claim Jones received $95,000, part of the $300,000 promised in return for providing the Duongs with city contracts. Legal analyst Stephen Clark says the new details only help the prosecution if it's allowed into evidence.
They're going to argue this is in furtherance of a conspiracy to commit this bribery.
Prosecutors also claim Andy Duong secretly recorded politicians in compromising situations.
You mean like what Mario Juarez said the Dongs had on Bob Bonta?
I'm telling you, that story, the fact that that hasn't been on the front page of one of the big newspapers in this state is beyond my ability to comprehend.
I will give our local news credit, especially our local Bay Area TV stations, because ABC7 has covered it, KPIX has covered it, KRON 4, KTVU, and NBC in the Bay. They've been all over this stuff. And, of course, us at KSFO, we've been on it since day one, or until we started broadcasting live on KSFO 2 years ago.
Or possible political leverage. His attorney says he was not charged in relation to the new allegations, saying in part, the motion does not concede the veracity or characterization of the government's allegations at issue, which will be contested at trial.
Now that evidence that they gathered is going to be used against.
I feel like there's going to be, it would be a very, very, very strange decision for the judge to say that all of the blackmail videos on Andy Dong's phone are not relevant to this case about blackmail.
And keep in mind, this is not conjecture. This is not speculation. The San Jose Mercury News, in their bombshell report from earlier this week, confirmed that they do exist.
Oh, yeah, including a video where Andy and Brian Acevedo are talking about all the prostitutes at the massage parlors they played with the night before while they were doing who knows what kind of drugs.
Them, and it really backfired, and that's going to be very difficult for them to explain.
The new allegations are part of a fight over what evidence jurors will be allowed to hear. The defense argues much of it is unrelated to the charges.
Will the evidence be allowed of the body cam footage of the FBI officers as they broke down the door to Shangy's home?
I want to know what she was doing in Vietnam when the guys were bouncing from one massage parlor to the next. I haven't seen one picture of them doing any sightseeing. The only thing I've seen is the karaoke bars and the massage parlors.
Tao, Jones, and David and Andy Duong have all pleaded not guilty. We requested comment from all of the defendants, but only heard back from Andy Duong's attorney. In Oakland, Valina Jones, NBC Bay Area News.
There she is. Shangy Tao, the bell tolls for thee. The trial is supposed to start when Johnny goes on vacation in October. But we're going to try. I have the feelers out, and we're going to try to see, because the trial is definitely going on for another week, if that last week in October, maybe the last Friday in October, we can do a remote from Oakland to revel in all the shanginess of it. If you got any contacts with any venues in Oakland that would like to host us, put in contact with us. Email us, johnnydon'tlike.com, johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com.
All right, we've got one more hour coming up on the John Phillips Show. Don't you go anywhere.
Speaking up in all caps. For those that don the red caps. It's the John Phillips Show.
It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is a 13-time Emmy Award-winning investigative correspondent for CBS News California, specializing in state capitol accountability and consumer investigations. You can watch her in Los Angeles on KCAL TV and in San Francisco on KPIX. You can follow her on X at Julie Watts TV. Julie Watts, welcome.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm guessing whoever gave you that intro got it from AI because it was not actually entirely correct.
Oh, is
I'm a
that
fact
so?
checker, so if I'm fact checking the governor, I've got to fact check you guys as well. Sorry.
Go right ahead.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Your ears must have been ringing yesterday because all over cable news you were referenced right and left, sometimes by name, sometimes not by name. Because yesterday, Katie Porter announced that she is getting out of politics for good, that you won't have Katie Porter to kick around anymore. And anytime they bring on the analyst to explain why, they go, well, the moment she lost her temper with that reporter in California, I said to myself, that's it for her.
You know, I've said this, I think, publicly a couple of times, certainly on panels, because as you might imagine, this comes up a lot. Folks ask me to talk about this. I will say that interview certainly, it inspired others to get in the race. It was a turning point in the race, but I do not think that you can credit that interview for the destruction of her campaign. I think that that was probably some very powerful folks inside the Democratic Party who didn't want her to be governor because they elevated that reporting. And think about this. If I had done that interview, let's just say with Gavin Newsom, and it had gone bad, I would have been vilified, right? But nobody vilified me. Well, a few people did. I did get some hate mail. But for the most part, publicly, folks didn't vilify me, which was a very clear indication that the Democratic Party was not rallying behind her.
No, and I'll tell you, I've seen some of her defenders. I've seen some of the people who ran her campaign explaining why she, I think, ended up with 4 or 5% when all the votes were counted. And the answer that they gave is sexism, that the temperament issue became the dominant issue in the campaign for them. And they believed that she was targeted because she was a female candidate. And I've got to tell you, the candidate that she reminded me of the most was actually a guy here in California. And I don't know if you remember him, but Kevin Shelley, whose dad was the mayor of San Francisco, Jack Shelley, became California Secretary of State. And he was the assemblyman from San Francisco. He was on the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco. And he was one of these guys who had the right name, came from the right political machine, had all the right contacts, and the sky was the limit. And when he became Secretary of State, he had a really nasty temper. And he had high turnover on his staff. And I think at one point he threw a telephone at someone, not the cell phones, the heavy ones that we used to have back in the old days. And it just got to a point to where there were enough stories out there about this guy exploding on people where that just became how voters knew him. And he actually had to resign as Secretary of State because the snowball just got so big. He couldn't defend his behavior anymore. He couldn't defend his actions, and his own staff was turning on him. And then that was it. I mean, a guy who could have been governor, a guy who could have gone to the highest levels of California politics, lost it all because he couldn't keep from losing his temper.
Yeah, you know, I will say this, and you guys pointed it out on your show, that Tom Steyer, you did the Tom Steyer mansplaining episode, but Tom Steyer also had a few moments that I think if Katie Porter had said it, it would have been a bigger deal, but folks sort of dismissed it because it was Tom Steyer. So I think there might be a little bit of truth to the, you know, she's a woman and women aren't supposed to behave that way. I also think it has a lot to do with the question that she didn't answer, which was, what do you say to the Trump voters who will be disenfranchised by the Prop 50, ballot measure? And that got picked up nationally by a lot of folks who were like, you should say something to these folks who'll be disenfranchised, right? So I think there's a lot of different elements, not just that personality. But I will say, the video that came out the next day that was leaked to Politico, my understanding based on some public reporting is that it came from a former staffer of hers. So, all that to say, there was a lot of things that worked together that ended us up where we are.
Well, now you're working on a new one that is excellent. We've spent a lot of time talking about it on this program, and it added something new to my vocabulary that I never thought would come out of my mouth, and that is Diapergate.
Diapergate, yes. It's a fun one, right? One of the great things about this investigation is that nobody died. There's nothing sad about it. And the money that we're talking about really is just, pennies compared to our entire budget, right? So, but what this investigation reveals is how things actually operate behind the scenes at the state capitol, which is my entire mission. My position at CBS California Investigates is to pull back the curtain and show, I always like to say, Mabel and Modesto, what's actually happening inside those closed doors. And this reveals it. And, really interestingly, when I started out on this investigation, it wasn't an investigation, it was a fact check because Steve Hilton was saying that these diapers were going to be 50 cents a piece. But he was taking the total budget and dividing it by the first year's diaper count. And so I simply did a fact check to say, no, Steve, that's not entirely accurate. This is how much it's actually going to cost us. And oh, by the way, all the critics who are saying baby to baby and Newsom's friends are going to get rich off this, they were saying they were making, 6-figure salaries. They weren't. So I was just simply doing a simple fact check. And I reached out to the governor's office and said, hey, can you give me a copy of the contract so we can just put it all out on the table and move on? And there weren't really any red flags with what I had found initially, except for the fact they wouldn't give me that contract. Had they given that to me 66 days ago, none of this would be public. I would have just moved on. But when they didn't, I started searching, and that's how we ended up where we are today.
Would they say you're not entitled to it, or were they just acting like, oh, well, the person who normally does it's on vacation, and this is going to take a long time, and bear with us?
Here's what I would say. You need to go read or watch the, I think I call the Diapergate Part 2, 66 Days and Counting. So the way that the Public Records Act works in California is legally they have 10 days to respond to say, yes, these are public records and disclosable, or no, they're not. And then they have to tell you when they will give you those records, right? What happens is they then almost always, as certainly state agencies will say, we need another 14 days because this is an unusual circumstance. That is also allowed under state law. They come back at the end of the 14 days and they say, we think we can give them to you by this date, but we're working on it. And so in this case, they gave me a date in the future, and then they extended that date again. And this is the way it always works. If they don't want to give you something, they'll just keep extending it. And legally, they don't have to provide the documents by a certain time. They just have to tell you when they'll give them to you. So in this case, after 66 days, I'm like, I'm done. Like, we're going to expose the fact that they're still holding on to these records. And then I happened upon the fact that it actually was listed as a no bid contract. And as soon as I reported that, within, later on that day, I got the records. And it's funny, some of these records actually were dated that day. In other words, emails had been forwarded on that day to fulfill the record request. Now, I will say, if you read our reporting, the state said they needed the time for their lawyers to go through these things. And, it was this, extensive process. And I don't know if you've seen my most recent post. I didn't put it on TV, but we just did a sort of follow-up. So we did the story. 6 hours later, I get an email after 5 o'clock on a Friday, this last Friday, saying, here are the records you requested. And then 30 minutes after that, I get an email from the governor's office saying, your reporting is demonstrably false. And they start listing all of these points that are wrong, allegedly wrong with our reporting. And so I spent all weekend digging through documents and responding point by point to each of their concerns, most of which we had reported anyway in our initial story, and linking the documents basically as breadcrumbs for anybody who would like to do a deep dive and investigate, because there's a lot of citizen sleuths out there. And so what I've done with this investigation is really give you all the documents and the databases where you can search for more. Needless to say, I haven't heard anything since we posted that story and sent the response back.
Well, and one of the things that you uncovered in all of this is how commonplace it is to have these no-bid contracts when we're under the assumption that it's a competitive bidding process for all kinds of different contracts that they have found ways around.
Yeah, and this is, to me, the most important point of the story. So in California, you're supposed to have competitive bids, and there is an outline process of what that means. And there's a scoring sheet, and you can see the scores, and they are required to give it to the lowest bidder, or, I mean, there's a handful of things, but there are requirements in there. So there are some exemptions for somebody, like only one company makes a product, or it's an emergency, or it's a state-to-state transaction, or state agency to state agency transaction. But none of those applied here. And so then I started looking in the Budget Act, and I realized that there was an exemption for this policy, and there are $1 billion worth of these exemptions in just this 2026 budget that was just passed. And what it does is it says this is exempt from the Department of General Services, the DGS oversight. So not only are they exempt from competitive bidding, but DGS, if it's a competitive contract, they have to upload it to a public database so we can search for anybody who got the exemption. It's not in that database. Nobody would know. Nobody will know that any of these contracts are no bid contracts unless you were to search for the program in the state budget, then try to go figure out who got that contract. And even then, it could take you months before they'll tell you who got the contract. And will we ever see those contracts? That's not clear either. So this is a really big exemption. And we're talking about funding for the governor's Prop 1. That was his big campaign. We're talking about suicide prevention, prison reentry programs, opioid crisis funds. These are all things that have been hot button issues that really don't have to go through competitive bidding and don't have to be disclosed. And so for me, the point of this story was not diapers. It was what this tiny little diaper contract revealed. And I really hope that the folks in Sacramento inside that building start looking at this and saying, listen, if we're going to do this, maybe we should have a rule that you have to automatically upload those no bid contracts, right? Because these exemptions are becoming more commonplace.
It seems as though the attitude in Sacramento is going in the opposite direction, though. Go back to the hospice care fraud in Los Angeles that was exposed in part from your organization, CBS News, that went national and went all over the place. The cable networks were all talking about it. The reaction from the governor's office was not anger at the people who were stealing the money. The reaction was anger at the people in the media who exposed the fraud. It seemed like that's who they were mad at. They weren't mad at the money being stolen. They were mad at being embarrassed by having that being reported.
Well, I think there's a distinction between the folks in the administration and the folks in the legislature. And we are seeing, keep in mind, we've got, I think it's a third of the legislature. It was new, this is their sophomore year, right? So first term, I am noticing anyway, folks who are more concerned about accountability than when I first started sort of covering this world. But you're right. I don't think the administration likes to look bad. I have a couple of investigations that I'm working on right now that also indicate that is a thing. But I'm going to kind of stay tight-lipped on where that's going. I will also say we have another part 4. Hopefully the final Diapergate piece is going to be coming out. I'm hoping to publish today, and we'll get it on the air here soon. But it will reveal what was actually in the contracts and what was actually in the competitive bid records. And that I find really, as a mother, as a parent, very interesting. I'm going to leave you with that tease, and you'll know more when we release it later on, hopefully today.
So I'm going to be hitting that refresh button on YouTube all day long, is what you're saying.
Well, this one might be on the website first before it's on YouTube, but yes.
What was the relationship between the first partner, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, and this group?
Listen, I think, to be fair, we need to go back and say Baby to Baby is absolutely, by all accounts, a reputable nonprofit in terms of Charity Navigator, in terms of how much they pay themselves. They get a ton of money. I mean, this contract is a drop in the bucket compared to, I think it was, don't quote me on this, but I think it was like $70 million a year that they're bringing in from donations, celebrity donations, and they do a lot of good. So I want that to be very clear. This is never an investigation into Baby to Baby. The relation, and the Newsoms, there's been a lot of people talk saying, oh, this is corruption, and the Newsoms are profiting off of this. Baby to Baby is not even, well, for the most part, profiting off of this. This was a sort of cost. We're paying for the cost for you to do this program. Jennifer Siebel Newsom, one of the CEOs, sits on the board of the First Partners Project, which is a nonprofit. And listen, this is a very prominent, high-profile nonprofit that focuses on women and children. And so it is not surprising to me that this woman, like, I don't know, chicken and egg, if they were friends before. I know that they've had donations going back to, Newsom campaigns for years, but nothing that raises any red flags. So it's not clear to me whether she's on the board because of a relationship with Jennifer Steele Newsom, or if that relationship became because she was on the board. So I do want to my investigation was never into that. And I want to make that clear. My investigation is to what this Diapergate contract reveals, that somebody got a contract without a competitive bid. It was not transparent. And I think that when we release part 4, you're going to understand that there are really concerns with how Baby to Baby was selected. That's not to say that they aren't a good nonprofit or can't do this well.
Last question before you go. We've been following another story involving the California Department of Motor Vehicles and allegations that there was cheating going on when people were taking their tests. And there are members of the legislature who you mentioned are more interested in finding corruption and making sure everything is kosher than the executive branch. And you have the committee chairman who looks after the DMV and is supposed to hold them accountable, who is very interested with how responsive the DMV is to his requests, and other members of his committee apparently feel the same way. It seems as if, in many cases, in a world where term limits dominate, the bureaucracy looks at it like, we're going to be here forever, and you're going to term out. If we don't like the questions you're asking, we'll just wait you out. Do you get the impression that they do the same thing with you at times, where they know that you have deadlines, they know that you have newscasts that you have to appear on, and bosses that want to see productivity, and if they just make it as big of a pill as possible, maybe they hope that you move on to something else and you just give up on whatever it is that you're digging?
I think they do that with everyone, with all journalists. The beauty of the role that we created, that CBS created for me, is that I don't have to give up. I mean, I have more investigations than I can handle right now, but I'm going to be there. And I can't tell you how often somebody's communications person says, yeah, we're going to decline that interview. And then I say, okay, well, I know they're going to be in a hearing, and so I'm just going to hang out outside the hearing. They look much better if they're sitting down in a well-lit interview situation versus me chasing them down the hall. And I will say, some people call this ambush reporting. We have a rule, and most investigative reporters have a rule: you do not ambush people. If you're going to do an unscheduled interview, it's only after several requests, documented requests for a sit-down interview. But if you're not going to answer the questions, we're going to get the answers. And frankly, sometimes they look much worse when they don't want to talk. So yes, I do think that they try to make us, they think that we'll go away. And for the type of accountability reporting that I have been tasked with, it frankly gives me another story to do if they don't want to talk, or if they don't want to give me the documents, because to me that says, okay, there's some there, because if there wasn't, you would have given them to me 66 days ago.
Julie Watts, CBS News, California. Excellent, excellent, excellent reporter. You can follow her on X at Julie Watts TV. The final installment of Diapergate coming up. We'll make sure to push it on social media when it's out. Julie, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks, guys.
I need to go get some steaks this weekend from Lazy Acres in Los Feliz, because I've got a hankering for some steakerin', and I need to fire up my Soul Air infrared grill. I got this grill over a year ago, and it does such a great job on chicken, steaks, sausages, fish, shrimp. It does a great job on everything. Veggies. It's a infrared grill that is a hot and fast grill. It gets up to 1,000 degrees in just 3 minutes. There were so many times where my old grill would take forever to get to temperature, which means I was wasting a lot of propane. And then as soon as you lifted the lid, all the heat would go away. That doesn't happen on the Soul Air. I'm a big fan of this thing, but don't take my word for it. Go to the website and check it out. There's all kinds of shapes and sizes. They come in propane and gas hookups. See if the solar makes sense for you when you're ready to upgrade your grilling game. Go to besthotgrill.com/Randy. That's besthotgrill.com/Randy. It's the John Phillips Show. We are playing some of the best interviews that we had this month. Our big first inaugural month of streaming online on video, which we made it even easier to find us. Every single day from noon to 3 Pacific, we're at johnnydon'tlike.com. And after we sign off at 3, there is tons of on-demand content that I spend way too much time posting. All the best moments from the show are right up there. Also, my 5 o'clock show, The News Blitz, I put up videos for that. But most importantly, if you haven't seen it yet, we really hope you check out our brand new podcast, The Accountability Podcast. It's like the 16th hour of The John Phillips Show. We've done 5 episodes already, and all of them are at johnnydon'tlike.com. When the live show is over, if you go to johnnydon'tlike.com, the first thing you're going to see is all 5 episodes. We did Why Gavin Newsom Will Never Be President. We did that great expose on San Francisco wanted to ban whippets. The town hall where Karen Bass and Barbara Ferrer got cussed out. We did Kamala Harris threatening to run for president. We got all kinds of great stuff. We even did one on Diapergate. It's all there at johnnydon'tlike.com. So check it out. And if you do us a favor, if you watch any of our on-demand content, don't only hit the like button, but leave a comment. We want to hear what you think, and comments are great for telling YouTube that people actually pay attention to this stuff. Coming up next, it is the most popular interview we did all month. I'm not sure why. Maybe YouTube was just feeling really generous that day. But this interview that John did with Susan Crabtree is at 15,000 views on YouTube. So I think that's worth a replay. It's the John Phillips Show. If you're looking for some reading material this weekend, have I got a great idea for you? It's the Santa Fe Official Visitor's Guide. This is a beautiful book that details the best restaurants, hotels, outdoor activities, so many great things that you can do in my favorite place on the planet, the city of Santa Fe, New Mexico. And guess what? This book is completely free. All you got to do is go to santafe.org and then send in your address. They'll mail it to you. It's a beautiful book, and it tells you about all the fun things to do there, has some great recommendations. But let me also give you this personal pitch. If you're ever thinking of going to Santa Fe, New Mexico, the city different, send me an email at randywangradio@gmail.com, and I'll send you my personal list of all the places that I visit every time I go visit the lovely city of Santa Fe.
It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is the senior national political correspondent for Real Clear Politics and author of the book Fool's Gold: The Radicals, Con Artists, and Traitors Who Killed the California Dream and Now Threaten Us All. Available online at Amazon.com. You can follow her on X at Susan Crabtree. Susan Crabtree, welcome.
Great to be with you, John and Randy.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by today.
Absolutely.
All right. So Gavin Newsom has finally publicly acknowledged that he is considering running for president, although all of us who've been following him have known that for quite some time. And it seems like Gavin is starting to worry about certain things. He's acknowledging that there are certain things that are going on right now in the world that could portray him in a negative light as a candidate for president of these United States. One of the things that he is clearly worried about are visual images of empty downtown city centers in California, Sacramento specifically, which is the state capital. It is a city that is associated with Gavin Newsom, and a lot of the state workers work from home, which means if you're in downtown Sacramento at 5 o'clock on a weekday, there are tumbleweeds rolling down K Street because nobody's there. The sandwich shops are going under. The coffee places are going under. The longtime restaurants are empty and barely hanging on. And he knows that is an awful look for him. And he's so concerned about it that he's willing to go to war with the SEIU over that, which is something that he's been hesitant to do so far in his term as governor. He and the unions have largely been on the same page. But he is so worried about that, he's willing to go at it with longtime allies. He's doing the same thing over the wealth confiscation tax. What do you make of Gavin Newsom's recent activity in going at it with longtime allies because of this problem of California's condition being hung around his neck?
Well, he knows that in his budget that he's paying, the rent on all of these buildings, they're government buildings. And during COVID, they had to condemn basically the Nancy Pelosi federal building in downtown San Francisco because they actually had to tell people not to show up to work because it was so dangerous down there. But he knows that a big chunk of his budget is going to these empty rooms, and it's hurting the economy downtown, and those business owners are upset. And basically, the remote work is not great for everybody. It is not great for productivity in a lot of ways. You have a big debate going on about that. But the SEIU have backed him. They backed his Prop 50. So I'm sure they're saying what gives, because their responsibility is to the workers. I actually had a great story about that they're actually not. They're not looking out for all of the workers. They're coercing people into union membership, and we can talk about that as well. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting move on his part. But they are honestly bleeding this budget dry, and with so many different services. Like I've mentioned, I've reported on the illegal immigrant services, the $1 billion that taxpayers have provided during Newsom's time in office for illegal immigrant services. And so he needs to come up with the money somewhere, and he doesn't like the fact that these buildings they're empty, and it's embarrassing.
Are you expecting to see more friendly fire from Gavin Newsom in an every man for himself sort of way? And I say that because let's look at the big story in LA today, which is that the number of people living on the streets is going up, and it's going up dramatically. And Karen Bass was asked about that because she's in a tough reelection fight as mayor of Los Angeles. And she said, well, don't blame me. Previous mayors didn't do enough to fight homelessness, and the federal government is cutting the funds that are coming to LA. And oh, by the way, so is the state. Well, if you're complaining about the state cutting your funds, you're complaining about Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom isn't going to like that. I wonder if we're going to start to see friendly fire between those two as they point fingers at each other and blame the other for the homeless numbers going up in LA.
Absolutely. And I think to your other point, I think you're going to see a lot of this going on because Gavin Newsom knows if he's running for president, he has to protect those Silicon Valley billionaires that are going to provide the funding for his campaigns. And he's doing that with the billionaires tax, even though he's promoting the billionaires tax, a national billionaires tax, so that California doesn't have to bear the full burden of having its tech titans fleeing and having, changing the economy along with it. But when it comes to this, I think that Karen Bass, you've seen this before with Gavin Newsom. He likes to deflect on homelessness when it comes. He said he's going to fix homelessness since he was San Francisco mayor, which is ridiculous. It's only gone up and spiraled under his watch, and Karen Bass, and he's pushed it downstream, saying, well, I've told these counties to build more housing for the homelessness. But as you know, John and Randy, it's not a housing first issue. They liked that he's tried that for so many decades now, bought into this whole liberal mentality that if you just provide the housing for the homeless, it would fix itself. But look in LA, housing for homelessness is up 212%, and yet we still have an increase in homelessness. Yeah, so I do think you're going to see a circular firing squad coming up on this issue.
Let's move on to the alleged federal investigation into the business practices of the Newsoms, because Gavin Newsom, who is the source of this story, by the way, claims that the Trump administration is trying to find ways to get him because he is a political enemy, and that's what the Trump administration does to their political enemies. Recently, Jennifer Siebel Newsom went on MS Now with Stephanie Ruhle and was asked about that. And Stephanie Ruhle correctly brought up the fact that this investigation did not start under the Trump administration. It started in the Biden administration. And she said, doesn't that blow your argument out of the water? And Siebel Newsom's reaction was, homina, 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 homina. I don't know anything about that. Moving on to Donald Trump as a bad guy. And I just don't see how Gavin and company continue to use that argument and have anyone believe them when the investigation was clearly started under the Biden administration. And not just that, but from a California whistleblower from a California office. This did not start in Washington, D.C. This started right here in Gavin State.
That's right. Well, I think that Gavin Newsom is getting pretty nervous, and that's the reason why he went forward with that story. He wasn't in the news a lot preceding the fact that he basically disclosed that he was under investigation and then immediately started fundraising after that for that issue, saying, hey, I'm a target of Donald Trump, and this is a political weaponization issue, and on and on. But we all know that there was a lobbyist who was working with his former chief of staff, Dana Williamson, who was wearing a wire. And we only know that thanks to the California Post excellent reporting. So, the California Post is already changing the game. I'm proud to say I'm a contributor to the paper and to Christopher Rufo's team, Manhattan Institute. And they're getting inundated by real journalism. All of a sudden, we have several open records requests out from the Manhattan Institute into Gavin Newsom's office, and so does the California Post. And we're finding out all kinds of things about what the nonprofits, one nonprofit, and specifically Jennifer Newsom's nonprofit that called the Representation Project, and how it interacted with her for-profit side. Now, as I recall, John and Randy, I remember reporting on Michael Pack's a similar investigation, a U.S. Attorney's investigation from D.C. Michael, from the same exact issue, his nonprofit was interacting. Money was flowing in between the two to its for-profit side. He's a documentary filmmaker who Trump appointed to head the U.S. Agency for Global Media. Interestingly enough, he had to make restitution in the end. His for-profit side, I believe, had to pay his nonprofit back $200,000. So, this is something that comes up from time to time. If you are going to create a nonprofit, it has to be for the public good, and it's subject to federal law. So we'll see what comes out of this investigation. But supposedly, we know that Dana Williamson's colleague, probably former colleague right now, because she wore a wire for more than a year, and who knows what in conversation she picked up and who she talked to. We'll find out when the investigation is final.
A lot of people pass around these emails that show 4 families running California, where it's the Pelosi's, the Newsoms, the Browns, and I don't know, the Gettys or whomever. Mm-hmm. And I think the working assumption is they're all ultra wealthy. They all have tons and tons and tons of money. And I don't necessarily think that's entirely accurate when it comes to the Newsoms. The way I see it, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Newsoms have access to money. They have it in their social network. Her family is rich. The Gettys have helped finance his various businesses and his political career. But it's the people around them with the money. It's not them with the money. Because a lot of people look at these allegations or look at these stories that are percolating and they go, why in the world would the Newsoms waste their time with a side hustle? They're rich. He's politically ambitious. He could be president. And I say, just because they're around money doesn't mean they have it. They have a very expensive lifestyle. The kids go to private schools. They go on luxury vacations. They wear the finest clothes. She's a movie star, for heaven's sake. We know that how they live. So I assume it costs a fortune to run that operation. And if you're not sitting on the billions of dollars in the bank, as they are not, then yeah, it does make sense why you would do a side hustle. particularly if you appointed the Attorney General, who's the one who's supposed to be looking after these sorts of things. Rob Bonta is never going to blow the whistle on him. The oversight from the legislature isn't going to happen. Let's not forget what happened during COVID when he ruled us like a king and rendered the legislature to be totally irrelevant. They really haven't bounced back and asserted their authority as a co-equal branch of government. I could easily see why the Newsoms would do something like this if they think no one is minding the store.
Well, they did have to have her wealthy parents, who were Republicans, at least at one point, who live in Montana, sign off on their latest purchase of their multi-million-dollar home. I think it was a $9 million home, as Jen Van Laar has reported on extensively. So yes, she's used to a very luxurious lifestyle, and with her parents, and like you said, all this ties to Hollywood. She had ties to Harvey Weinstein too, and then she at one point testified against him, but there's disputing on whether that was prodded or not, because the originator of the Me Too movement said she called her up and said, "What can we do for you on behalf of Harvey's Weinstein's? How can we make you happy?" So, she does run around in these circles. And I felt like the nonprofit, and I think the jury's still out on whether the nonprofit did break any laws or not. I don't know if she did it for money per se. I mean, she did collect more than $1 million from that nonprofit I reported. And I was one of the first people to report that in our book, Fool's Gold. But since then, the California Post has updated that number, and they quoted some people saying it's a disproportionate number to her salary to the amount she brought in for that particular charity. And I don't think it's bringing in a ton of money, but she needed to have a platform. I felt like she wanted to have a platform so she could run when he ran for president, when she knew he was going to or wanted to. And so why didn't she just join another nonprofit? Why did she have to have this? There's two nonprofits that she has. She has one that promotes women on corporate boards and women in the workforce, sort of more equity. And then she has this other gender justice that's related to her documentary filmmaking. So if she wanted to promote more women in the workforce, I think there's plenty of nonprofits that already exist for that. But it is the documentary filmmaking nonprofit that I have the deepest concerns about, because she's selling these documentaries to public schools to screen them. She's charging a fee to screen them. And I want to know, there's been a lot of scrutiny over whether the guidance from the Department of Education suggested or even did more to require these films, not require, but suggest. I want to see, that's what one of my open records requests is about, to see how persuasive or mandating they were on requiring her films to be screened in California public schools for a fee. That's where I have my biggest concerns about this scenario, because some of these films are, if you take a look at them, which I have, they have some really indecent and some might say even pornographic material in them, and then they have this pro transgender ideology aspect of them too, and part of the curriculum of one of the films, which they have a genderbread man where you have interchangeable gender identities. And so, I have real problems with such a top-down indoctrination approach in our public schools.
Well, especially if she's profiting from it. I remember back when I was a political science student as an undergraduate, we all had to take an ethics class. And the way they explained it was you run for office, you get elected, you say, I want to spend money on my priorities. Okay, that's step one. Step two, I want to spend money on my priorities, and I want to give the contract to my friend. Okay, that's fine. Step three, I want to spend money on my priorities. I want to give the contract to my friend, and some of that money is going to find its way back to me. That's when you go to prison. And it seems like if they went to step three, they could find themselves in a heap of trouble.
Yeah, and that's the same issues that we have with this diaper gate issue. Why did they need a nonprofit who happens to be friends? The head of the nonprofit happens to be friends with Jennifer Siebel Newsom, and I believe sitting on the board. I will do a fact check on that afterwards. But sits on one of her nonprofit boards. Why did Gavin Newsom had to go through the nonprofit? If you want to if you really truly want to be the nanny state and provide diapers for newborns, then why don't you just give a coupon to Costco to people to buy these diapers? I don't see why you have to run through. It's always a nonprofit in California. Even Steve Hilton's the new ad featuring him fighting the machine has a guy on with the word nonprofits, a hat with the nonprofits on it, because I've done so much reporting this issue of this impropriety or ethics concerns raised by these nonprofits, including with Rob Bonta and his wife. There's a lot of smoke there too. They've got slapped with an ethical fine for securing money for her nonprofits. And we don't need all of these nonprofits in California. It's like an extension to our government. When I was doing my reporting for the immigration illegal immigrant services story for the City Journal, you would not believe how many nonprofits exist for illegal immigrant services in California. There's one for every minority. I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's mind-boggling.
We're going to have to leave it there. Susan Crabtree, senior national political correspondent for Real Clear Politics, author of the book Fool's Gold: The Radicals, Con Artists, and Traders Who Killed the California Dream and Now Threaten Us All. Available online at Amazon.com. You can follow Susan on X at Susan Crabtree. Susan Crabtree, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks, John. Thanks so much for having me.
It's the John Phillips.
It's the John Phillips Show, and, this has been quite a month. July had so much huge news in it, whether it was the big Shang Tao stuff, the diaper gate, everything going on in Boyle Heights. And at the same time, July was when we launched our live video podcast. Had a little kinks here and there. There's been some getting used to, a whole bunch of new things. It adds so many other elements to the show, but we're having so much fun with it. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for participating in the show. And if you haven't had a chance to watch our stuff now, because you can watch it and you can watch all of it on demand, we've made it very easy. Go to johnnydon'tlike.com. Not only can you see the live John Phillips show there, you can also see all of our on-demand content. I post like the best segments of the day. We also have the accountability podcast there. We've done 5 episodes so far. That is exclusive content that you will not hear on the radio. So make sure you check that out. All 5 episodes are there. On episode 6, we're working on maybe getting Steve Hilton. So make sure you check out all of those. And my 5 o'clock show is up there as well. Video versions of the News Blitz, which, by the way, if you need more of me in your life and you happen to be listening on KABC, I do a show called The News Blitz with Randy Wang every day from 5 to 6, covering all the stories that we didn't get time to cover here. So check it out at KABC.com or 790 KABC. Have a wonderful weekend. We've had so much fun this month. Can't wait to see you in August. It's The John Phillips Show.